So last night, Joe Rogan Experience number 1,555 dropped. As you can see, it's here on YouTube. It's got over 3 million views already. 181,000 likes to 7,000 dislikes, which is a really good ratio there. Very popular. It's already got tons of views, and I would imagine it will get many, many more. But as you can see by the character that's on my main, that I paused it on, that would be Mr. Jones here, people are not happy with it. So one thing I want to point out, some interesting stuff before we get into the salt, which is, I'm sure, what everybody is here for. I just wanted to point out that this JR Experience is on Spotify. So that's a good thing because, like I said before, I've been critical of Joe Rogan since he made the transition over to Spotify because there are several of his podcasts that are not on the site. And 2 of them are with Alex Jones. So the big thing there was, okay, is he ever going to be allowed to be back on the show? Are they ever going to put that up? And they did. So as far as I know, this episode is over on Spotify, and I think that's a good thing. However, there were some interesting things that happened, and this is a really interesting podcast. I definitely recommend watching it. It's 3 hours. It's really entertaining. Every time he has him on there, he's a big clown, so it's funny to watch. But he did drop some interesting stuff. So here's the thing, all right? Here's what was different this time, this fact-checking him all the time, which I don't think is a bad thing, to be honest. And then the other thing I'm wondering, he's still on YouTube this year. What about next year? Is that going to happen? I think he'll be on again. So not as compromised as we all thought. So I give an apology to Joe Rogan on that one. I've seen some other people have done that as well. So far, so good. I hope he keeps bringing on interesting guests because it's what makes his show good. However, and the salt must flow, my friends, and it is flowing indeed. Spotify criticized after Joe Rogan interviews A. Jones. So this is the first of many articles, by the way, that I'm sure are coming because every time Joe Rogan has any wrong thinkers on his platform, the salt flows. If you remember, there was a lot of leaks that people in Spotify were mad. They're saying, it's Joe Rogan or us. And if I was Spotify, I would say, see ya, bye, and fire them all. Replace them with people that want to be there. You give some employees like power over your platform. No. Fire them. Obviously, Joe Rogan is still allowed to do what he wants to do, and I'm glad for that. But here comes an article like this, and this is funny. This is a very biased article. They're talking about all these activists, Nathan Bernard, another activist. Well, they got like Nancy Pelosi's daughter to come in and complain about Alex. And then they've got activists saying how they feel, a Daily Beast reporter, and so on and so on. But listen to this salt. This is what's funny. Spotify is under attack. Spotify is under fire after Joe Rogan invited controversial founder of Info. I don't know if I can even say the website, Mr. AJ, onto his podcast for the second time in just a few months. In the 3-hour episode, the pair touched on topics that are very controversial. Comedian Tim Dillon was the second guest on the podcast. He, Rogan, and Jones appeared in a photo that showed them failing to practice social distancing.
What a story, Mark.
That is, of course, this photo of them all embracing for a photo here, which you think they would praise for maybe taking down toxic masculinity or something because they're all pretty close here. And I would like to point out that Joe's podcast has rigorous testing for the coof. Okay, so I'm pretty sure they're all good. They're all fine. None of them have it. He has very strict policies on that. So this is what that article is complaining about. They failed to socially distance. Of all the things that you could have went after for this podcast, they get petty about this photo. It's just funny to me. So that's the first smear article, and it's, of course, funny. Newsweek put out an article going over some of the tweets that people are whining. Yeah, it has a bunch of people whining in it. We don't need to go over it. I just want to show the tweets. Here's Nathan Bernard, activist, by the way. Joe Rogan hosted far-right conspiracist Alex Jones on his podcast. They pushed anti-X conspiracies and broadcasted banned videos. Rogan continuing to platform these far-right sickos is incredibly gross and dangerous. I don't know anything about Tim Dillon, so is Tim Dillon, is he some crazy right guy? I don't know. I don't know anything about Tim Dillon. I liked him on the podcast, so I followed him on Twitter. So I'll imagine that I'll get to know him a little bit more through his social media. But check this out. Here's what's funny. Sophia Narwitz captured this. This is Nathan Bernard right here. So look what he has in his bio. Free speech activist. But he's saying that he wants to keep people deplatformed. Okay. How are you a free speech activist if you're trying to get people kicked off of social media and certain platforms all the time? You're not very much of a social media activist, are you, Mr. Bernard? Here's someone who I've never heard of, by the way. I have no idea who this person is. This is why I quit Spotify when they announced his deal with Joe Rogan. Because F him and Jones and F Spotify. So you're taking yourself off a platform. It must not have been that successful. It must not have been that successful if you were willing to give it up. Because I highly doubt it. And she has like 155,000 followers on Twitter. I have no idea who she is. Never heard of her before. Don't care about finding out either. I just find it funny. Quit Spotify because Joe Rogan was coming over. Well, I'm sure they don't care. Your podcast that got like 200 views, I'm sure they miss it. Okay. And then there's some more. Joe Rogan again gives this a voice and platform to dangerous nonsense. So we got Kyle Hill here. I don't know who he is either. Then we got Christine Pelosi, and so on, and so on, and so on. Not everyone is complaining. A lot of people like it. I love Joe Rogan's podcast. I think it's probably one of the best shows on the internet. He definitely, I love that he brings on multiple voices, like different ideas can come and be spoken on his show. And as far as I know, he's not beholden to anybody. Spotify, I don't know yet. It was interesting how much they were Googling everything he said. And like I said, I don't think that that's a terrible thing because Jones can go off the rails. And it's good because definitely Jones got caught in some stuff, especially the things he was saying about Whitmer. They pulled up. They couldn't find anything that he was saying on that. And I'm not saying the dude is lying all the time, but I'm saying Rogan definitely pointed out some interesting stuff about how he talks a mile a minute. And sometimes some of the things he says gets him in trouble. And I mean, obviously the dude's been kicked off every platform. So he obviously says things that get him in trouble. But look at all this. So this came from Sophia Nar 0747 over on Twitter. And she did a good collage. She made a good collage here of all the blue check marks that were complaining. Look at all that salt. The salt will flow, my friends. The salt will flow. So I wonder how long this is going to go on. Now, look at what they did with Chris Pratt. I imagine I would be willing to bet Joe Rogan will end up trending today. And you're going to see multiple news outlets go after him. It won't matter, though. They've tried to cancel him so many times. And he just sits there and gives him the finger. Even if Spotify were to cancel him, and I don't think they will, he could always just go back to YouTube or multiple other platforms because he's not edgy enough to justify being booted off of any platform. He does a really good job of straddling the fence. And you kind of have to if you want to stay on these platforms. You got to straddle the fence. It's just the way it is. Or you find yourself with no platform and you can speak all day and nobody will listen. So I think Joe Rogan is actually pretty smart. And even if Spotify were to cancel the contract, they'd still probably have to pay him $50 million or something. Or maybe they don't get to take any of the money back. I don't know. I just think it's funny. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the salt. Keep going, Joe Rogan. And let me know what you think in the comments. What are your thoughts on all of this? Throw a like up. Share the video. Make sure you're still subscribed. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out.